Subscribe to the channel. Do it now.
Yo, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Orangebloods Overreaction Show, the Monday Overreaction Show here on the Orangebloods Texas Football Channel. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Anwar Richardson. And this video brought to you by RogueShop.com. Use that promo code OrangeBloods to get your 10% discount and get the good stuff. I definitely have become synonymous, Anwar, with RogueShop.com and the product.
Yeah, I mean,
people are constantly just assuming that I've enjoyed myself. Whether it's writing, reading, talking.
If they ever found the perfect spokesperson for them, they found one at Jeff Ketchum. That. Yeah, it's like no, I'm not reading something. Like, I'm telling you about something I enjoy. So yes, Rogue Shop. Absolutely. I got a good night of sleep this entire weekend because of the Rogue products.
I think I'm still wanting to go back to bed because of the Rogue products. This morning, it was one of those weekends that by the end of it, I need a Monday to recuperate from the weekend.
I had to pace myself on Saturday night with the fight, though, because I didn't want to go too early on the Rogue products and miss the main event. So
were you happy with the fight?
Yeah, I actually was. Like, it actually was a good fight, even though Tank ends up, kind of dominating the fight. It still was a good fight, though. I still enjoyed watching it.
Because whenever there's a big fight, there's beyond the fight, it takes a little something to make you feel like you watched an event, something that you'll remember at the end of the year. As we get into our Monday overreaction takes, I have a couple of takes and topics. I think we should outline from the beginning. We're going to be talking winners and losers from the offseason as a whole. That includes all of the spring, but really from the moment they stopped playing football in January to where we are right now. We're going to be talking about offseason winners and losers today. So there's like a topic inside of the Monday topic, which is always our overreactions. I have a couple of and the problem with this, Anwar, is I'm fearful that my many little discussions that I want to have are going to end up like 30 minutes later. We're going to be like, let's get into our winners and losers from the offseason. So I have a couple of not even like hot takes, just UT football talking points that I want us to like seek clarification on through conversation.
Okay.
The first one, let's start with the defensive lineman, because I've seen this in response to something that I've written in my 10 thoughts from the weekend over at the website. And if you're not on Orange Bloods and you haven't checked out my 10 thoughts from the weekend or Anwar Sunday pulpit from yesterday, trust me, a couple of bangers back to back that will, feed your needs from a Texas football discussion standpoint.
And there's a promo catch if they want to sign up.
That is correct. Still have the promo. This has actually been really popular. We've been getting, a nice number of signups per day on this. Blake, do you still have that? Let me make sure.
Yes, it's still active, Blake. It's active until August.
No. You know what? Hold it. I need to get it reactivated.
I thought it was active until August.
It goes until August, but there actually was an expiration date on the offer.
Oh.
I just got to get it extended. I'm going to do that. Check back on the videos tomorrow if it's that sensitive. I don't want anybody to get immediately charged when trying to use a promo code that has expired. So hold that thought. All right, let's start with the defensive tackles.
Okay.
There's a lot of pushback to this idea that Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, but specifically Alfred Collins, is not a loser in the arrival of Trill Carter, the Minnesota transfer that's coming in for Texas in the summertime through the transfer portal. I don't understand where the mix-up on this is, Anwar. There seems to be some thought. There's a lot. I won't say there's a lot. I saw it enough this weekend that I thought it was worth discussing. There are still people who are very much on the Alfred Collins train and believe that he's on the cusp of a major breakout because at some point it has to happen. And I don't understand why they don't understand why the arrival of Terrell Carter, it's for anybody who's, if there's a piece of the pie and we're all going to share the pie, and then we add someone to the list of people who are eating the pie, and there's no more pie, it's still the same pie, then that guy's taking some of your pie. Like on some level, Anwar, it's as simple as that. But on a broader level, there are people who just flat out think that Alfred Collins is set to be a difference maker on this year's team. And I'm a bit baffled as to how that thought has taken shape.
Yeah, I mean, as the subject of Alfred, looked at the end of the day, this Terrell Carter was brought in to be a part of the rotation, and they assessed an area of need and went out and addressed it, and then for the most part, when they get these guys in the transfer portal, again, for the most part, those guys are here to play. There's only been a couple of guys that come in and maybe have like a Ben Davis of the world who really doesn't really have an impact and doesn't come in to play. But for the most part, most of these guys, if given the opportunity, and maybe a Jai Hall, didn't pan out, but they were brought in to play. They were brought in to compete. And this is an area where they said this is where they've got to get better. This is where they've got to get stronger. Of all the things coming out of the spring, the number one position that they attacked the moment that they could was that particular position, because what we know is they feel very strongly about Byron Murphy. They feel very strongly about T'Vondre Sweat. And then after that, just okay, just okay. And if there are upgrades available, they're available. I think the thing with Alfred Collins, so clear, I like Alfred. Okay, I've liked him. I think you and I were extremely high on him as freshmen. As a freshman, like I enjoyed him. I thought his interception that he had as a freshman is still something that's obviously going to be memorable to me. There were times where that previous staff thought to themselves that Alfred Collins was going to be, a future NFL person. But it hasn't really gone that direction. It hasn't clicked in that direction. And when you start, the problems are, when you start getting a little bit older and your year, what were we at, 4 or so in the system, or not in the system, 4 on campus, and they're bringing in someone else, that's kind of like the alarm button that should be pressed that says, oh, wait, I think they're bringing them in to replace me. Like that's what it is. What I'm saying? It's how many years, and, and all of a sudden you bring in another beat writer who's here to kind of, cover the UTB and be responsible for news and notes and go to press conferences. And I'm like, I think Catch may have found my replacement. I think that's simplistically what it's at. And, outside of him as a person, we haven't heard Sarkisian really talk up the guys a lot behind T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. Like Byron Murphy, I'll say this and I'll let you jump back in. Byron Murphy and T'Vondre are one of those, or the guys that get the unsolicited praise by Sarkisian. Coach, who the guys that stood out? Byron Murphy, T'Vondre Sweat, like unsolicited. And the other guys are the ones you have to ask specifically to see if he's going to say something. And those things would kind of become pretty telling.
I think when you look at Collins, just in the spring game, 75% of his reps were at defensive tackle, not at nose tackle, but the other defensive tackle. And then the other 25% were at that strong side defensive end that Baron Sorrell plays at. Well, as the backup strong side defensive end, he's battling Justice Finkley for snaps really and truly right now. And, he may win a majority of the backup number 2 snaps at that spot. Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of young guys that are trying to get on the field. At that other defensive tackle spot, you've got T'Vondre Sweat. And now you have all of the snaps behind T'Vondre Sweat. Well, they brought in Trill Carter, who last year, he's a versatile guy that can be moved around, but 75% of his snaps came at the defensive tackle spot that we would be talking about. It's just another name in the lineup of guys that want to get reps. And if you're a backup guy, as you were saying, Anwar, in that position, and they bring in another guy to compete for the reps I'm already competing for, that is a you issue. That is he's coming for mine. And I think that look, you and I talked about this last week. I think it's a sign, if I'm Alfred Collins or Vernon Broughton, that like I better pick it up. They literally have just brought in a guy who, if everything's happening right for that guy, he's playing in your spot. We can argue semantics that, well, Alfred Collins actually has 2 spots. Aha! Well, okay. Sure. Yes, and Trill Carter might play 10% of his downs as a nose tackle. And so, guys, he's a defensive tackle. Alfred Collins' primary position is defensive tackle. This just isn't rocket science. Anwar, the other thing, I think we're good there. Okay. I just wanted to talk that out because I've had, like, even now on Orangebloods this morning, it is one of the things that people have weirdly responded to is, Alfred Collins is not a non-2 deep player. And I'm like, well, really, if we think about it, game 1, it wouldn't be a shocker to see T'Vondre Sweat and Trill Carter listed in that order at one spot. And then you've got Byron Murphy as the primary nose tackle. And the main guys that have been working at tackle are Aaron Bryant and Sadir Mitchell. Those have been the guys who've been primarily working as the backup nose tackle. One of the reasons why I don't think Trill Carter comes in and plays a lot of nose tackle is he gets in the way of both of those young guys, especially Sadir Mitchell. We know that as the season goes along, that's a guy they want to play more of, if at all possible. So anyway.
Yeah. And just by the way, Catch, these guys, he wasn't the cell job wasn't come in here and be, third off the bench, on the rotation.
Compete for our number 5 spot.
Yeah, we would really, I know you got other options, but we really, really want you at that number 5 or 6 spots. You're going to play every couple of games and play a few downs here and there. Probably never achieve any of your NFL dreams. And but you get to come to Austin. And he's like, yes, I would love that. Like, that wasn't what was sold, and that's not what was told.
We can't specifically say what he was told.
Correct.
But we can tell you what he wasn't told.
That is not what he wasn't told that.
The other thing I wanted to just have a quick conversation about before we jump into winners and losers from the offseason. Just on the quarterback front, I want to know whether or not I'm just like picking apart your words like people did with me when I used the words damn good back in the day with Shaka Smart. If I'm just too closely picking apart your words, you can tell me and I'll be like, done. I got it. However, if I'm not picking apart your words and I'm asking a question that is grounded in real seriousness, then I think there's an interesting little conversation to come out of this. So you have described Malik Murphy's spring as great. He had a great spring, right?
Yeah.
Are we saying great in the spirit of he legitimately, I guess my question is, I'm thinking I'm picking apart your use of the word great. How many guys in the program do you think had great springs? Like, give me some context.
Here's the thing. The thing is, now you got to give me if you're gonna do that, then we got to do categories, right? Of like
there
great,
are
good.
categories of great, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like great. I mean, yes. Oh, you want to guys who had great springs. A.D. Mitchell had a great spring, I would say. Quinn Ewers probably might be a step above great. As far as if you go whatever that is to as far as next level is concerned. Jaden Blue probably had somewhere between a good to great spring. Somewhere between that is concerned. I would say Cam Williams had a great spring, right? Now you can maybe say he had next level, but I would say Cam Williams had a great spring. Don't know what to say about Xavier. I'm just saying on the offensive side of the ball for right now. Don't know what to say about Xavier at this moment because, I think we always expect him to be what he is. So not quite sure about him. Jordan Whittington's pretty solid. So, but Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, I would say they had great springs. I'm not quite sure what to make of a David Benda because to a David Benda standard, he had a great spring. What does that mean as far as when it's, because it's great is all like, I could have a great basketball practice, right?
The thing you're asking about David Benda is the thing that I find myself asking about Malik Murphy, because I think in Malik Murphy's own little bubble, like for the things that he was trying to accomplish, I think you could probably say, hey, did he check all the boxes? Yeah, great spring. I don't know that his great spring is the same as Kelvin Banks's great spring. And we can say, well, there's a word, then I don't know. There's player by player. I just feel like, I don't know. Again,
there's
it's
levels
probably
to it because
a me issue, but my brain's been like, I don't know if he had a great spring. Because I think great is relative.
The great is relative to the person, right?
If you say that, then I can move on.
Yeah, great is relative to the person.
Okay.
I can have a great basketball practice. It doesn't mean I'll beat, John Morant in a game of pickup.
That was the thing I needed to figure out. That was it, Anwar. Because if it wasn't relative to just the player and it was a general great, then there's a conversation to be had, I think, about where are we with the quarterbacks? Like, is there a battle and we're not talking about it? But I don't know that. I think it's condition of the players, and I cry uncle at that point. I can move on.
Yeah. Now, I still will disagree with you probably, and maybe we'll get better road cartridge as to who will be the number 2 quarterback when the season starts.
Well, I don't know who will be the. I mean, look, it makes sense from a moving of the chess pieces around that Maalik be listed as the second string quarterback, that maybe even in game 1, he'd be the backup quarterback because they don't want him to leave. And if you truly felt like, shit, man, I'm the third string quarterback and like, it ain't getting better, then there will be conversations to have at some point. I think if any of those players ever got in that position and felt that way, you'd have a hard time probably keeping them out of the portal. But I don't know. Like I know that my expectation continues to be that Arch Manning will be the starting quarterback in 2024. That's the basis of everything I think about with the quarterbacks. I don't know that I'm a big believer in that Sark is going to be able to thread the needle and go in 3 consecutive years, Ewers, Murphy, Manning, hey, they're all first-round quarterbacks. They all played. It all worked out. I get it. It would be a hell of a thing to see come true if it unfolds that way. I typically can't wire my brain that way. It just seems a little too perfect for a school that, quite frankly, it'd be nice to just see them have 1 first-round draft pick at quarterback. I don't need to get beggy and choosy just yet. But that's it. Like I think that it is a battle that will. I just, at the end of the day, if Quinn Ewers gets hurt and they need to play one of these two young guys on WAR, if it's a long-term injury, I think it makes sense to play Arch Manning. Because I think he's the guy that they're thinking will be the guy in 2024, even if they'll never say it publicly. If I'm wrong, then, that's certainly possible. I mean, Malik Murphy could turn out to be so good that he can't be denied. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it could happen. I just don't know that I believe it's definitely happening at this point.
Is there anything you saw from the spring game that made you believe that if there's a hiccup and Quinn needs to come out for a quarter or two or rest of a game, that Arch gives you a better chance of winning than Maalik?
No, but I think a big part of that has to do with the fact that I thought Sark went out of his way to make sure that Arch didn't play with the primary dudes. So, no, I didn't in the spring game. In a normal practice where he's getting to play with all of the weaponry available, I think, then the answer might become yes. It did not in the spring game. Full transparency. No, didn't see anything that made me think he at that moment was a third string guy. I just couldn't ever at any point shake loose from the fact that, the guy that caught his first pass was a guy I didn't know before the spring game as a walk-on, and that he mainly played with the walk-on receivers. He wasn't playing with Jonte Cook and DeAndre Moore all of the time, whereas I thought Malik Murphy got to play a little bit more with those guys. And for Quinn, he got to play with an even higher level of wide receiver. All of those things have impacted the way I kind of view things. Malik, he was the best guy last Saturday, but he did it with the second best group of wide receivers, which I think does actually mean a little something. My expectations for all of the quarterbacks go up if they're playing with Xavier, Jordan, AD, Casey. If Casey Kane's your fourth receiver in that group of guys, you're doing pretty good. And I think that's a luxury that neither Arch or Malik had, but I thought Malik had a slightly better group of the white team receivers than Manning did.
I mean, then isn't that kind of the sign of where they're at right now? Where you just named the tiers. Quinn kind of had some of the best guys. Malik kind of had that second grouping. I've heard
from people who've watched practices who've told me that, hey, in the practice before, 2 practices before, Arch was the guy that had the better looking day of the two, that he was more accurate, whereas Malik struggled in positional drills in terms of accuracy, but not so much with team or the other way around. I think it's fluid enough. I think the biggest thing that Sark would have wanted to have accomplished on the day of the spring game was to not have Arch Manning come out looking like he's ahead of Maalik by any distance. I think the thing he would have wanted to do more than anything was to leave that where Maalik can tell himself a story or events unfolded that meet the narrative in his head. That's exactly what happened. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point whether or not Arch is second or third. There's a bigger picture down the road with him. From an immediacy standpoint, there's more urgency with Maalik. And I think what happened during the spring game was perfect for what Sark would have wanted to see come out of that spring game.
I would just ask the question. This is where when we saw, and then someone put in the super chat, and so it's kind of what my thought is. we saw through the better ball, on Saturday. Like I know again, we had practice reports, and it's funny. It's like it's funny when someone does good in a practice, then all the sources are like, oh yeah, I've been telling you that all along. You're like, wait, well, I had it. You had? Like, I don't remember all that. But
I told you that.
Yeah, and it's like, no, like I remember people telling me about that like last year about like the Hudson, I think it was Hudson and Casey, and they're like, no, I told you Hudson, was better than Casey. I'm like, no, actually you did. But when it came to the eye test of just being able to throw the ball and get rid of it, one guy just looked better. And again, it's not an indictment on Arch or anything to that effect.
But I think day in and day out, Arch doesn't nobody throws a prettier ball than Maalik. So there's no debate that can be won on who does it look sexiest coming out of his hand. But Arch is probably, I think I can safely say that Arch is a more consistently accurate quarterback, and that's one of the things that Maalik will need to continue to get better at, is just general accuracy. Every day he gets a ton of reps is a great day for him, because I think that's how you improve. But there are still elements. He's not ready to challenge for a starting quarterback job.
Who, Maalik?
Either of them, but yes, I was speaking specifically of Maalik.
But let me read a portion of, and I put this in the thing that I sent you when we were discussing this this morning, and let me just read a portion of what I had in the war room for guys who, when Catch gives you the promo code, this is going to be some of the insider stuff that we have. I'm going to give you just a little taste of it.
Little product placement here.
A little taste of what I was able to write, and then we could kind of go from there. For me talking to my sources inside the building, where we had like probably 5,000 words of inside information. Here's what I said. I said, I was told in addition to having a big arm, Murphy has a natural feel for the passing game. The areas that impress many people are Murphy's anticipation, his throwing window ability, matchup recognition, and velocity on throws. Those are the traits that were on display throughout the spring. And then another aspect of Murphy that has so many people giddy is his leadership ability. One person told me Murphy's personality is infectious. He's a player whose players on the team love, and also he's been described as a great teammate. So there's a couple of little things, Catch, which is throw the ball, but then, of course, the velocity, there's some more specifics of that. And then there's a leadership component of, hey, look, Catch, I was in Moncrief, and you've been in locker rooms before, but I wasn't in the locker rooms waiting for Sarkisian to come through. But you ever been there when you felt the presence, and you're just like, who the hell just walked in the room? Like, it's just different, right? And it was a Malik Murphy. I'm 6'2". He's 6'5", 230. And when he talked, he had this like way deeper voice than you, but it was loud. And I was like, holy this dude is different. And so there are some other things that I think.
What do you think would happen if he started this season?
Started?
Give him all 12 games. Eliminate Arch.
Oh my
Eliminate
God.
Arch and Quinn from the discussion. Who do you think Malik Murphy is as a player on this team, 12-game starter?
Okay, so let's just remove it that Quinn Ewers isn't here and Arch Manning isn't here.
Correct.
It's just Malik Murphy, no competition. Okay, good.
Is Malik in a vacuum without these other factors?
With the weapons that I saw him have around him, Catch, I mean, I still think this is about a 10-win team with Malik as the quarterback.
So the same as with Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, I mean, it may look different, but what I'm looking at is a quarterback that will still be able to get you the ball, right? I think it is a quarterback that'll still be able to put up some numbers. A tall guy, and a quarterback that I think Sarkisian recruited and loved. So I don't think I would look at it now. If you told me somebody else, if it was Arch, I'd probably say, "Ooh, it's going to be some growing pains because he's a young guy." But if you tell me him, based off of the spring and the leadership, all that other stuff, success in high school, yes, absolutely. I still put you around a 10-win category.
Doesn't Maalik have to go through the same young player growing pains?
Yeah, to a certain degree, I would say you would be correct on that. The only difference would be a little bit further, a year advanced. But has he been in a college football game? No. So that portion of it, you have to say so. But does he have the physical attributes to make up for a lot of growing pains? Like, I would say so.
I think he's got to go through all the things that Quinn went through a year ago that, we still don't really know about Quinn because games are so different than practice that, it's harder to make those calls. I didn't lie, Anwar. We're like 30 minutes into the video. But to be fair,
okay. I had a chance to write down some winners though.
Well, I think some of our winners would be guys that we've just been talking about, right?
Yeah.
So Malik Murphy is a big winner. Yeah. And in I think this offseason in training camp, I think the portrait, I was going to say the defense. I don't think there's ever really a defense needed. It was more of we're just talking about the players and kind of where they are in their development. You can't be the way you've described Malik Murphy and not be a winner in the offseason from a big picture standpoint. I think Quinn Ewers, you and I would both agree, has been a big winner in this offseason. We went from a few months ago to real questions being asked behind the scenes as to whether or not maybe he ain't the dude. And without any games having been played, Quinn has done enough in this offseason that the buy-in from his teammates seems to be back. And I think probably even in his coaches in a way that makes him a winner in this offseason. He's done a lot of work to be called a winner. The fact that Maalik is playing as well as he is, and it hasn't created the what if, who should be, that kind of discussion, I think speaks to he's making a lot of improvement, but so is Quinn. Otherwise, and I think that was one of the things I was trying to get to 20 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago was, God, if Maalik is really making the move where he can be a 10-win quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Shouldn't there at some point be a conversation about those two guys when Quinn hasn't yet proven really anything either, but it speaks to the level that Quinn's playing at, that Maalik could make that move and it not feel like someone's nipping on Quinn Ewers' heels. But that I was asking that question for that exact reason.
Yeah. No, I think Catch, the thing is, and I feel this, I feel like in our quarterback competitions, at least since I've been here, it's basically just been, it's almost been like by default a lot of times, Catch. It hasn't necessarily been because one guy's so great and then the other guy is, just a little bit behind, or, there's group A and group B. Seems like there's been like a group B and there's like a group like maybe C or group C and there's a group D, and like all the quarterback battles have just kind of been like, well, someone's got to win it, and it's, you're fortunate with Sam Ehlinger that he was able to kind of take off in his second year. But this is kind of the first year I feel like, okay, they have a guy who has the potential to be elite, hasn't established it yet, but has the potential to be elite. The NFL scouts believe that he has the potential to be elite. And so now he's got to live up to that. Let's just be clear. He has to live up to that. Spencer Rattler, Catch, we were entering a season where everybody said Spencer Rattler was probably going to be a first-round draft pick. Yep. And then the Texas OU game happens. He gets benched, and then here, it never really comes about. So to be, you can, the scouts can say one thing,
and then he's gone. Don't forget that part.
Yes, he is gone. Right?
He went he's the next guy.
Yeah.
And kind of a sure thing to no longer being a sure thing and no longer even being the guy at his school.
So I'm just saying Quinn has to do his part. What the scouts say, he still has to live up to his expectation. But if he lives up to that, and then Maalik kind of lives up to that, and then the second part of that equation, the third part of it, Catch, because I know we got a lot to get into, is this: if you're still a Sark believer and a believer in Sarkisian's ability to develop quarterbacks, then you should feel pretty good about what they have in the room.
Still a really interesting question about what if Quinn's really good but not great, and then has to come back next year in 2024, and then you're asking both of your young quarterbacks to wait that extra year. Somebody's going to be unhappy. Imagine a world.
No, Quinn has to go. Like Quinn has to be good to go, because if it's not, then someone's unhappy. Probably Maalik at that point.
Well, and it's, you know what? You don't want to go to an unhappy place, but that is the elephant in the room. Is that if that doesn't happen, suddenly, because today they're all happy, so there's like a willingness, there's like a yearning. Let's just stay here.
Yes,
Malik's happy. Arch ain't tripping because Malik's playing well. Like, he didn't probably feel threatened at this point. Quinn feels good. If we could just stay here forever, there's a world out there where anything less than Quinn being sensational, then there are questions to be asked where not everybody probably comes out completely happy.
I don't want to do that to him.
If we go to the defensive side of the ball, let's just say, look, John Tay Cook, winner. A.D. Mitchell, winner. There are some other obvious guys, but we spent a lot of time talking about really the quarterbacks, and it's the discussion we would have anyway. Who are your obvious winners on the defensive side of the ball?
The first obvious winner for me is Keaton Crawford. I mean, that
really,
yeah. I mean, because this guy comes out of just a guy that you don't talk about, and a guy that you, for the most part, was an afterthought, to by the time spring is over, he's being viewed as like, a key contributor on this defense. Now, what happens now, and by the time we get into fall, I'm just talking about right now as we record this show on April, what is it, 26th or something like that? I don't know what today's date is. 24th. As we are April 24th. Yeah, if Keaton Crawford was your starter, all throughout the offseason, and it was receiving high praise, that's a win. Like, and again, this goes back to relative to the person, right? That I think Keaton Crawford's my obvious winner.
Well, by using David Benda,
yeah.
I mean, to go from not consistently playing every week to first team defense in the span of DeMarvion Overshown having cleaned out his locker is a meteoric rise. Again, don't know what it means in August, September, October, if he's able to hold that place, but you'd be hard pressed to pick out a guy whose lot in life looks better today than if we were picking guys with drastically different profiles from New Year's Day to where they sit today, even if precariously where they sit today. Benda, I think at that point you're talking, again, Keaton Crawford. Those two guys fit maybe that profile together incredibly well, because we would have argued with ourselves on New Year's Day of this year that, hey, just it would have sounded crazy at the time on, like, say, January 1, that we would have a David Benda is first team linebacker and Sark just can't say enough good things. It's just hard to imagine back then that we would have swallowed that and moved on.
Catch the fact that on an Overreaction Monday show that we are talking about David Bender and Keaton Crawford says a lot about how much they've won. Because prior to this all-season, Catch, I can't think of how many times we've ever mentioned either one of those guys' names. Just being, I don't know. It may have been an afterthought, but not as a centerpiece and not as a standout. Like those words have never been uttered by us. And the fact that they are, and the fact that they have accomplished so much, the fact that, they're fighting off guys, good guys behind them at this point, holding off guys who are behind them. That says a lot. I don't know, Catch, what that means. Like I said, come the fall, does that mean one of them is the next, Jalen Ford as far as coming out of nowhere? I don't know. I don't know that to be for sure. But I know today, shoot, man, if I was them, spring was over, I made sure I had myself a good celebration drink because they were able to do the damn thing.
What is interesting about Crawford is he's come from it is a Texas DB room. It's got like 10 dudes in it that want to play and that can play.
Yeah.
I mean, I called up Alex yesterday. I was like, hey, let's just talk about, if everybody's healthy, what it looks like. And it's a deep room, and there's going to be guys on that second team defense so I think even the best players in that secondary on War, I wouldn't call winners because everybody's still battling for jobs. Crawford's the rare guy in this deep room full of talent that I think is a true winner because I think he's climbed enough rungs to put himself in the mix in ways that other guys didn't. So it's a hell of a call. I think it's even more of a unique call when you consider, I don't think, like Jahdae Barron probably doesn't need to be a winner, but I don't know that he was a winner this spring. He's really good. He's one of their really good players, but he's kind of exactly where he was. I don't know what Jahdae Barron has won if we're talking about winners. All of the guys we're mainly talking about guys have obtained, clout when they might not have otherwise have had it.
Yeah, I would definitely say so, and that puts them in there, like the obvious, like the Byron Murphys, the Tavondres of the world, right? Clout, right? That's your position, and no one's really talking about that. Like you said, is Barron Sorrell's a winner? Well, he's done what he needed to do, and we know he's very good. But those guys coming out of nowhere and kind of solidifying themselves like that for me puts them as winners.
I'd put Ethan Burke up there. If you go back to the very beginning of the spring, Justice Finkley was ahead of him taking first team reps at that buck position. He does enough there that by the end of the spring, Justice Finkley is primarily taking all of his reps at that defensive end position behind Barron Sorrell. So whatever without making any huge claims about what Ethan Burke may or may not do this season, he did enough that the guy that was in front of him at the start of camp, at least on the unofficial depth chart of guys rotating in and out with the first team defense, he got that guy completely moved away. And that's a bit unique. I don't know if there's anybody else on the team that played well enough that they got a guy they were competing with for playing time just moved.
Yeah.
And he still has to maintain that over Jamon Tapp, over Colton Vasek in the long-term future. It's a deep pool of guys that they hope the light switch flicks on. Anthony Hill's going to be playing some at that spot too. If they're using him as a pass rusher, potentially there's things that they can use. But I think Ethan Burke would be one of my winners on defense for the sole purpose of essentially having the coaches move Justice Finkley back on the other side of the defense.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really great win for him. To gain the weight and the muscle that he was able to do, throughout the offseason to become kind of a bigger guide. And, we saw that picture of, him versus when standing next to Vasic. And you're like, oh, so this is what a year in the system looks like, and a year in the weight training room looks like. I see it. Like it's definitely there. And then to your point, Catch, to kind of distance himself to the point where they're like, okay, that's you. And we feel pretty good about that. And we're just going to let that be, to the point, right? We've heard about things in the offseason. You didn't hear them going, to look for an edge rusher, to find someone to replace Burke. They seem like pretty good on him. So that says a lot, Catch, when you're able to, at the end of the day, find some folks that they've said to themselves, we're good. We don't have to find anybody else. That's what Ethan Burke was able to do, and that's what it's a good win for him.
I'm throwing a question at you. Are any of those guys that we just talked about at that position not a year away?
You mean like more than a year away?
Like any of those guys actually ready this season, and not, hey, they're gonna tear it up. And because one of the things I wonder about all of these young guys is, are they ready this year, or are they really another year away?
Yeah, that portion of it, Catch, and then to the fantastic portion, I'm not quite sure with as relates to that. Like I don't know.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you want to dream big and be excited about it, but if you told me right now, give you a stat line.
Yeah,
I mean, I could be anything right now.
You're not standing on the table.
No.
I got you.
I won't stand. I'll stand on the table for some other folks. Those guys are like, well, we'll see what you guys do first. I'm gonna sit my little ass down. I'm not gonna stand up yet.
Give me another winner.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
And this is kind of a reverse winner kind of situation. Does Jonathan Brooks become a winner because nobody really blew the doors out the water as relates to the running back position?
Yes, I think maybe even specifically he's a winner because CJ Baxter didn't have a big spring game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, we saw it with Anthony Hill. He's playing against backups, but he's flashing. He's getting near the quarterback, even if it's just scout team versus scout team. So now you come out of the spring game and people are like, oh man, Anthony Hill, that might be our double-digit sack guy right there. Like Jonte Cook, kind of the same thing. You have that big play, and it's like, oh, we've got to get Jonte Cook on the field. What didn't happen in the spring game was CJ Baxter didn't play so well that everybody marginalized the rest of the position.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be that dude. He's the next Bijan. Well, what does that mean? Well, specifically, it probably means in this conversation that CJ Baxter is the next 1,000-yard guy, the next, all Big 12, all America level player. He's going to be that. I don't think that we saw that. It has meant that this entire week, there has not been a lot of CJ Baxter conversation. Nobody else other than CJ Baxter can mitigate the entire position as kind of a moot point, other than this guy who comes in as a 5-star talent and kind of has those expectations. Nobody expects Jaden Blue or even Jonathan Brooks to do that to everybody. That just at some point he's going to flex and be better than everybody. So Brooks, because I don't think if Jaden Blue goes for $150 in the spring game, I don't think that means that like Jonathan Brooks's shots at the quarterback position are now finished. But if Baxter does it, he's the one guy that could change the way an entire picture of a position could change. And look, Baxter could still do that. it might be week 4 of the season when the Baxter moment happens and you go, oh, he's good like that. And then there are implications for when that happens. Brooks is a big winner because he really didn't practice a lot this spring. He's dealing with this sports hernia thing. And yet it feels like he's leaving the spring in a less precarious position than it felt like he was in when all these dudes were taking his reps. It's felt like he's a bit precarious spot. And now it's like, not as much because that big performance didn't happen. Your reverse win, you're exactly right. He backdoored his way to being in a winner spot. But hey, better to backdoor your way and get lucky than to not have any luck at all and be one of these dudes that's like, what happened to you? Jonte Cook showed up.
Because we saw that. We saw when Jonte Cook and DeAndre Moore came in, that was the end of Brandon Thompson, right? I mean, that happened then, right? They're so good to the point where you're like, Isaiah Nair is going to be back in the fall. You're like, oh, yeah, well, that'll be cool.
In retrospect, the commitment of DeAndre Moore was the beginning of the end of Brandon Thompson's career at Texas.
Yeah.
Because the moment because that kid was coming in early, Brandon Thompson's whole outlook might look different if all of the freshmen that showed up hadn't showed up. Then he could have run track and there wasn't anybody that had showed up on campus who was like, yo, dog, I'm not telling you to go run track. I am telling you that these dudes over here came to play. You might want to protect your house. If those guys don't come in early, the whole second string wide receiver unit is full of backup walk-ons. And it might have changed the way that Brandon Thompson viewed what was in front of him from a competing for his job standpoint. But they did come, and he found out pretty quickly, like, yo, those dudes are now ahead of me. And somehow a guy that's been on campus 5 minutes got passed up by a younger player. Yeah. It's not supposed to happen that quickly, but it did.
Yeah, and so that's what becomes different. Like that's what could have happened. So that's what could have happened in the running back room, right? Catch, which is CJ Baxter just gets in. Well, are you laughing at all the Kai Woods comments? I feel like Paxton and Dez, and they just mess with us, man. Like those are my boys, but I'm like, y'all doing too much.
If I was to give away, like if we had a RogueShop.com gift card to give away today, I might give it to Dez for that. Kai Woods will have the same number of carries as us. It just tickled me pink for some reason.
No, Kai Woods is a great story, but what did someone make the reference, Catch? That it was like Kai Money had like let it in receptions at one point, and it's all good, Kai, but that was the end of it. But yes, Kai, no one. Someone's related to Kai Woods because I feel like every week we're getting some more Kai Woods things. Like we need to do a genealogy test or something.
Hey, Kai Woods was a winner.
He was a winner.
His name is being mentioned on this show. I don't know that I would have guessed that in January.
No, but you know what Kai Woods is winning because that Kai Woods has finally the tape that if he wants to go to another program, he like, hey, look what I did. Like, look what I did in college. And Kai's like, nah, I'm at UT, man. I ain't leaving. Like, I know these guys are going to be recruited against me, and I'm here for this diploma. I'm going to play. I'm going to have a good-ass time.
Yeah, the thing is, Kai came here for reasons other than athletics.
Yeah.
He's normal student DNA, which means, he can't just pick up and leave without potentially changing. Like you said, he's on path for something else.
Catch, I realize as it relates to my boys, I'm like, wait a second. Well, if they want to play major sports, just get good grades. And then you can just walk on to somewhere and be a good ass cheerleader and have all the fun in the world, and it's all good. You're not going to get drafted. The majority of those guys aren't going to get drafted.
You're still getting the girls, but you get none of the pressure that comes along with it.
Exactly.
It's not a horrible way to go through life. How about this?
Yeah.
It's turning. What about losers?
Oh, you want to do that?
Do we save it for another show? Do we
save it for another show?
Okay, because we could keep it a buck and just do some drive-bys on this Monday and have
we're gonna get
people with bullets in the streets. Because Catching Anwar decided that 56 minutes wasn't enough time to do a video.
So no, let's have a peaceful Monday, man. Let's have a peaceful Monday.
I do have one overreaction, non-football related.
Okay.
Texas baseball team. Ooh, it was bad this weekend, Anwar. To lose to Oklahoma in a 3-game sweep. It's one of the worst 3-game sweeps I've seen in 20 plus years of covering Texas baseball.
Damn.
It was bad. And it Pierce is not like the other head coaches in this athletic department. Like Sark's just liked by everybody. 13-12 doesn't matter. Sark is kind of the inverse Tom Herman. They have the similar profiles, but one guy's actually really liked by a lot of people, and Tom always had a hard time finding people who unconditionally liked him. I think. Who's your first loser?
Wait, I thought we were going to save this.
Oh, that's right. We're saving it.
Can I give you something else though?
Yes.
If Rodney Terry needed this weekend.
He's the opposite of Pierce.
Yes.
They had opposite weekends.
Yes, like you want to do that real quick and maybe end on a positive. Rodney Terry, if there was a guy who was like, man, can I just get a break, hit something? He gets 2 things happen to him. Catch right? He gets Dylan decides that he's going to come back, and he gets a transfer in from Virginia. He had two positive things that happened. Where he was like, okay, I got Dylan the suit back. I got the Virginia transfer. You saw him on the plane, like happy. And I was like, yeah, Rodney, you, if anyone needed just some sort of positivity in his life, Rodney Terry needed it and finally got some.
You know what? We'll go to the 2 super chats in just a second. Then we can wind things up. Nobody likes to be photographed succeeding more than Rodney Terry does. Rodney Terry always looks so happy.
Yeah.
I think without even the thing is, it's a skill that has never really helped him out before. Smiling and being happy did not help him at Fresno State. But here, it does. He has a super skill because I saw those same photos on the airplane, Anwar, as you did. And it gave me like the warm and fuzzies. It was like just seeing him happy makes me happy. And that is the skill that is hard to do. That people can like you when you're happy and not begrudge you when you're happy. He has an innate ability to. Nobody begrudges Rodney Terry when he's feeling himself a little bit. And seeing that photo on the plane, I was like, oh, man, don't tell me someone's feeling better than Rodney Terry right this moment, because that is the look of a man who feels good.
He is. And, he's He's likable, and I think that's what has a lot to do with it. Like you didn't feel that way. People didn't feel that way to your point about like a Tom Herman, right? They didn't feel that way about Tom when he smiled, but you still remember the Charlie Strong OU win, like you still remember the smile, the ET finger, all that kind of stuff because Charlie was likable. You like Charlie, and Rodney's likable. Now I hear my man in the chat talking about he's got to get guards, and we're not ignoring that portion because we're just letting Rodney have just a little bit of shine, a little bit of happiness after what was probably a really rough couple of weeks.
Oh man, he hadn't even coached a game yet. You've had people who are like, "You think we can get out of this contract?" Come on, guys. I told people a week ago asked me on a 1 to 10 panic scale, where should Texas basketball fans be? I was like, like a 5. People were like, a 5? I'm at a 9. And I'm like, whoa. What? You're at a 9?
Yes.
People got to breathe. If the answer to the question is I'm mad or upset or concerned at a 9, and things are still happening, the portal hasn't closed yet, would just say Woo saw it out. Real quick, Anwar, super chats.
Okay.
Good call, by the way. I was totally going to not give Rodney his love, and he needed it. We end on a good note. We end on a good question. RC asks, is there anyone in the 2023 class that didn't enroll early that we think could be a solid contributor this year? Also, better prospect, Evan Stewart or Micah Hudson. I have them rated the same. If you make me pick one versus the other, I'll go Micah Hudson. What do you think about this 2023 thing? Let's go position by position. There's nobody at quarterback. It's not going to happen at running back. I don't know that Ryan Niblett is going to leap past everybody, so I wouldn't. It's going to be tough sledding to get into the rotation. Offensive line, no. Defensive line, probably not. Linebacker, maybe one of these young guys, because I think Onward, no matter what Sark says, they're so thin at linebacker that maybe one of the guys could show up. That would be the only position.
Yeah, because I'm going through the rest of them, and he said, let me go back. I want to make sure I understood. And he said, and you said solid contributor. So yeah. With the solid contributor answer there, the caveat, that's about it. That's all I can think of the guys that are left. I see everybody else kind of getting developed, and getting ready. It'd be a lot of depth. That's for damn sure.
I think it's the DJ Campbell rule. If you expect to play early, you need to come in early.
Yeah.
If you're waiting, that's cool. But the expectations that you have for yourself about what you should be doing in games in the first month you're on campus probably needs to be revised a little bit. And then the only other super chat that I see that we need to hit is just Eric Torres banging the Jake Majors drum.
Well, at least Eric isn't banging the Bo Davis drum today. At least he's.
I thought about that this weekend, Donald. That crossed my mind.
That's his consistent tune. So at least he okay. Jake Majors, and at least it didn't say Bo Davis. So there you go.
So real quick, people are bringing up Jelani McDonald and Derek Williams. The thing is, it's just look. It's where and how they use Jelani McDonald. He could be used at linebacker in a way that gets him on the field. There's so many DBs that when it comes to getting on the field as a safety, again, we're not talking about not redshirting. The disclaimer was like, it's an actually good, impacting player. I don't know. Either of those guys could play more than 4 games, but I don't know that there's a pathway right now as it stands for those guys to be major contributors on a team that's really deep at the positions they're most likely going to play. Although, again, I'm open-minded on McDonald. They could do a number of things with him, and he may transcend need with his talent.
Fair enough.
Can
I give you a parting shot? Can I give you a parting shot?
Yes.
One that you appreciate. You know, I think I have chosen the absolute wrong time to get into soccer and become an Austin FC fan, because I feel like from the moment that I became a fan, I won't put it all on me, but this team is horrible, Catch. Like, this team can't score. They can't freaking score, man. I want my man Mike Torres talked up all Austin FC. This team can't freaking score, Catch. And I'm going to the game on Saturday. Going to take the boys again, and I'm hoping that they get a point. But I think, you know, I should have done it last year, and I would probably have been great. But I feel like I came a year too late. And now I'm just like, man, what am I watching?
The thing is, like a year ago, before last season started, there were a lot of people like myself who were like, I don't know about this ownership group. And I had questions about whether or not they would spend wisely. Mm-hmm. Then they had this incredible second season. And it makes all of those that had questions in the first season look like a-holes for not supporting the team and look at how good they're doing. But now they're in year 3. And all those things that we were concerned about are like real issues right now. They're not a good team.
No.
They're not. Like, I wish I had something better. If I remember correctly, in the one game you took your kids to earlier this season, they won on a late game score, but that was the only goal of the game, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, it's cool the first time you go, and the roof blows off to such an extent, but like at some point, it's easier to get people into the game with some 3-2s or some 4-2s mixed in versus a 1-0.
Those tickets are too expensive, Catch, for me to even think about like going there to watch them lose. Like you're dropping, with the taxes and the fees. I mean, you're dropping nearly like $100 a ticket. I got 3, so it's 3 of us. I got to spend the $300. The drinks, they're not going to have the stuff that they're going to eat, parking. I'm going to drop $400. So damn, nah, man, nah. This would be it.
I'm worried for you. Because I'm looking at this team. I don't know where the goals are coming from.
Nowhere.
And here I was telling you, hey, man, get yourself a Drew Usey jersey. He ain't scored no goals. You're like, what's the big deal? Why are you hyping this dude up, Catch? This dude ain't scored a goal since I became a fan of the team.
All right, that was my parting shot. Austin FC, get it together. You guys suck right now. No, I need a good performance from my kids, or I ain't dropping any more money. I can tell you that damn much.
Meanwhile, the Dynamo down here in Houston are like balling.
Yeah.
I can't get my kids interested. All right. On that note, thanks to the guys over at rogueshop.com. Again, use that promo code Orangebloods and get your 10% discount. But for myself and Anwar Richardson, do us a solid. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Do all of those things. We will see you guys tomorrow with the Modcast. Have a